Hello Year 4, Mr. Dice here, introducing our next sessions of artwork, our online art sessions. We've got 4 to come, including this one. And for our inspiration this time, we're going to take an artist called Matisse, who was a French artist who was a most amazing painter. He painted in the Impressionist form. But in latter years, when his eyesight started to fail, he used something called collage to create his art with him. So collage is basically cutting or tearing paper, 2 slightly different techniques, to produce an image. And that's what we're going to have a go at today. And then we're going to take that on next week to produce an even bigger image with more movement in it. So we're going to start off today with some warm-up activities which will help us with the main part of the activity, and then I'm going to show you a few techniques of we're going to tear paper today. And if you have problems with that, then you can always resort to a pair of scissors, but you'll see in a moment the difference between torn and cut is quite marked. So without further ado, I'll, as usual, show you what to do. So for our warm-up activity, we're just going to take a piece of paper and a pencil. Any old piece of paper will do, because this is just practice and it's going to warm us up ready for our activity. The shape we're going to make is a sort of a long, thin oval shape, a bit like a sausage in a way, or a cucumber. I'm just going round and round. I like to go round and round a few times to get that shape just right. So it's long and it's thin and it's rounded at the ends. So have a go at doing that. The other shape that we need 3 different sorts of shapes. The other shape is like an egg shape. So it's a bit like a circle, but it's slightly elongated. It's sort of stretched circle or squeezed circle, whichever way you'd like to look at it. So we're going to put some circles in there. And all I'm going to do is try and fill up this piece of paper with those different shapes that we want. So I really get my arm and my eye into making those shapes. The other thing we need is 2 big eggs, and those are going to what we call overlap. So one, and then the other one goes on top. And you'll see in a minute what that's going to represent. So just have a go, just any old which way you want to, and it doesn't matter if you go over the top of things. It could be a work of art in itself, couldn't it? So just do that, fill up that page, long thin shapes, the egg shape and the overlapping shape that we've got here. And you could, if you've got space, is to put little circles in. Could be a work of art, as I say, in itself, couldn't it? So just have a go at that. Be free with it. Don't worry about it. Just try and get those long, thin shapes, the egg shapes, and the ones that are overlapping. Well done. Now, the reason we've been doing those shapes is because we're actually going to make a figure. And I'm using this little artist dummy to show you how the body is proportioned. So the egg shapes are going to be the head, the overlapping shapes are going to be the body, and the sausage shapes are going to be the limbs. And if I measure this, I can see from here, which is the hips to the top of the head, is more or less the same distance as it is from the hips to the foot. And if I measure there, I can see that this is slightly longer than there. And if I look here, 1, 2, 3, roughly thirds. So half, quarters and thirds. And I'll show you how to do that on your piece of paper. So on the piece of paper, and this, don't worry too much about this, but what we're going to do is we're going to keep the piece of paper in the portrait way, and I'm going to draw a line halfway across. If you wanted to, if you just had a piece of paper, you could fold it in half if you wanted to. You could just fold it in half. I'll see how close I got, not too close. And then again, what we're going to do with the bottom half of it, you're going to cut that in half as well. And again, if you wanted to fold it, you could do. And here, I'm going to try and see if I can make it into 1, 2, 3 equal parts. So I folded it in half to give me this line, half of a half, which gives me a quarter, and then this top half I've divided into 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 sections, like so. So once we've done that, the top is going to be where our head's going to go. So we need our oval or egg shape there. And then we're going to put a little bit of a circle on, which is going to give us our neck. And then we've got the 2 bigger eggs coming now, so it's going to come down and down again. And that's going to give us our body. Now don't worry about this, because when we cut this out or tear it out, you won't see this side of the paper, you'll only see the other side. So this is just a guide for us. I'm going to put 2 little joints in again for the shoulders, and 2 little joints in again here for the hips. So the head, that's 1/3. I've overlapped this larger bit because this is the body, and if you wanted to, you could then go around and make that into one body shape. Now, the arms, we're going to use those shapes that we had. 1, 2. So that's the first part of the arms. That's where the muscles are. Then we've got our elbows. So I'm going to put another little couple of... Now these are quite good for showing us where the joints come, but it also gives us a little gap so that we can tear around them, and I'll show you what we're doing. And then the next part with the hand, the forearm and the hand, comes down below that line, so it comes down below your hips. Are we happy with that? That's the most difficult bit. Now we've got 2 thighs, which come like so, and 2 lower legs, which come like so. And then if you want to, you can put some feet in. And that will give us... Now I've done it quite quickly, but if you leave that image running, and I'll leave that there for you to see, then if you pause the video and just check what that is. So we've got thirds, halves, and in between we've got those little circles to do our jointing with. Okay, so that's, and by doing it this way you should get the correct proportion of a body, and it's also going to take up the main part of the paper. So I'll just leave that there for a few seconds, and perhaps your teacher could pause that so you can see that on the screen while you're doing yours. Now you've done that, now you've got to this stage, I'm going to show you how to create this piece of art that when you're happy with it and you've got some movement in it, you will be able to stick down. Now you'll notice it works well because I've got 2 different, so I've got the card is different from the colour of the actual person that I'm making in movement. So it's really important that you have 2 contrasting colours. So if you've done this on white paper, that doesn't matter, it's just a negative rather than the positive way. So then try and get a darker card. If you haven't got darker card, get white card and go over the background with a wax crayon. You can do that in a minute, and then you've got something that's going to stand out from your piece of paper. Now, as I say, you've done all of the hard work by making this. Now, I'm going to show you the technique of tearing, and while I do that, I'm just going to put a line on this piece of paper, and I'm going to tear that. So I'm going to tear along that line. So I need to have the paper in the best possible place for me. And what I can do is to rip it out first of all carefully, and then you'll notice I've got my thumbs on the top and my fingers underneath, and my two thumbs are going to be either side of the line that I want to tear, and I can only tear a little tiny bit at a time. So I'm just going to tear and move my thumbs, tear and move. So all the time that line, not like this, but that's really close together, those thumbs, and so I'm moving along that line. So have a practice first of all, just tearing along a line, and practice until you feel that you're happy to do it. Now I'm going to have a go at taking the head off of this. So I'm just going to, in fact, if you wanted to, if you find this a bit difficult, you could always just take a pair of scissors and cut the head out. No, I don't mean cut the head right out, I mean cut the head off the body, so you've got it like this. And then we're going to have the same technique. I'm going to put my thumbs either side of that line, and I'm only tearing a tiny bit of paper at a time. So it's not something you can rush, and I'm twisting as I go. I'm twisting that piece of paper around until I get the shape that I want. Now you'll see this is why it doesn't matter if we've gone over this 15 times, it's the finished shape that's going to make the difference. So again, I'm just moving the paper around in my hands, making it easy, and I'm just ripping. So now I've got the head, but if I turn it over that way, you can't see any of the work that I've done on it. So my head now will go there. Likewise, I'm going to rip, and I need to do this so I'm looking at what I'm doing carefully. I'm just going to rip that piece of paper with the arm. I don't find ripping down towards me is much better. And again, it's got to be controlled. And again, if you get a problem with that, just use a pair of scissors to separate it and then start your work. Now, that's my body shape. I could put it down, but it's not brilliant, is it? So I'm going to now try again, thumbs either side of the line, and just tiny ripping movement. So one thumb and finger really holds that firmly, and you've got to press really hard to do this, especially if you're trying to nibble off little tiny bits. Now the difference between this and doing it with a pair of scissors is that you get obviously a rougher edge, which gives it more of a blurred. And there we go. And again, I've got this messy piece, but if I turn it over, I've got a decent piece here. Now, if you wanted to, you could just leave a space between the head and the body, or you could, with a rough piece of paper, rip the neck. And so that neck could go underneath, and the body can go on top. And then you can start. I'll just do one arm for you. I'll do that quite quickly. And it's important that these are not just one piece, but that the arms and the legs are made into two pieces, so that you can form them into some shape that's really basically moving. So there's one arm. It's got quite a thick arm there. And again, if you want to use a pair of scissors to get the finer detail correct, and I'm going to put that part of the arm up like that as if he's running. But the nice thing about this is, of course, you can move it into any position that you want. So you just need to carry on with that cutting out, turning it over until you get to this stage, and that's where you can have fun, because with this you can move it around and stretch out. When you're really happy with the figure that you've got and you like the movement that it's got in it, it's not standing just like this doll, very straight, you've got some movement in it, then one by one, and I'd start at the top and work down, just take one piece at a time, glue it and pop it down. Okay, so I know that's a bit sort of long-winded, but next week we're going to, because we've practiced with this is going to make a really nice piece of artwork, but next week we're going to do something like Matisse's dance, where you have 3 or 4 bodies that are all interacting with each other. So have some fun with that, and I will see you this week. Bye.